We worship you, O Brian, who are Lord over us all. Praise unto you, Brian, and to the Lord our Father. Amen.
After the success of the Holy Grail, the Monty Python troupe was asked a simple question. What is your next film? The group were on a pub crawl in Amsterdam when Eric Idle suggested, why don't we make Jesus Christ's Lust for Glory? All the guys from the troupe thought it was hilarious until they actually sat down to write it. And then they discovered something very interesting. Jesus isn't funny. However, the people around Jesus are hilarious. So, Life of Brian became a movie. But is it any good? I'm Meffistoe. Like, share, and subscribe because this is my review of the movie Monty Python and the Life of Brian.
Listen, I'm only telling the truth. You have got a very big nose. Hey, your nose is going to be 3 foot wide across your face by the time I finish with you.
As I mentioned, the troupe really liked the idea of poking holes in religious establishments, but found Jesus himself not to be very funny. So the idea was to make fun of the people who only heard the gospel from second or third hand. But it's not only that. As opposed to their sketch comedy TV shows, the Pythons were looking into making a story that follows a single person. Life of Brian was born out of that.
You've got to think for yourselves. You're all individuals. Yes, we're all individuals.
The story begins with the famous 3 wise men coming to Bethlehem in search of the Messiah. But they enter the wrong house initially and bless Brian until they realize that he is not the one they came to see.
Go on out! Well, we must see him. We have brought presents.
Out!
Gold, frankincense, myrrh.
Well, why didn't you say he's over there?
And just like Jesus' life, we cut to the Sermon on the Mount. But this time, it's from the perspective of the people in the back rows that can only hear the sermon secondhand. Brian and his mom promptly leave that sermon to attend a stoning that doesn't go well either.
Who threw that stone? Come on.
And both go back home to find a Roman soldier. And Brian finds out he is not the son of Mr. Cohen.
A Hebe, a hook-nose, I'm kosher, Mum, I'm a Red Sea pedestrian and proud of it!
Shocked by this fact, Brian wishes to join the Jewish underground, which conveniently huddles together at the Colosseum. Brian wants to prove to them that he can be in the movement. So he graffitis all over a few buildings. Despite the fact that Brian gets lessons from a centurion, he almost gets arrested and tries to find shelter with the People's Front of Judea. And of course, they let him in.
Apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a fresh water system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us?
Brian helps the group to infiltrate into Pontius Pilate's palace in order to ransom his wife. But the group encounters another underground faction and both of them fight. This type of nonsense gets Brian caught and brought before Pontius Pilate himself.
Brian, sir.
Brian, eh?
No, Brian.
Ow!
Pilate tries to get some information out of Brian, but alas, he only succeeds in making his own soldiers laugh.
I have a very great friend in Rome called Bigus Dickus. Silence! What is all this insolence?
Brian makes his escape, but he only finds himself followed by a group of people who thinks he's the Messiah because he was pretending to be a doomsayer. More and more people gather around him because they think he is the Messiah, which ends up being a massive detriment and the eventual capture of Brian and, of course, being sent into crucifixion.
Crucifixion, yes, good. Out of the door, line on the left, 1 cross each.
If you've never seen a Monty Python movie or a TV show before, prepare yourself for the absurd. The Pythons craft a story that mimics the life of Jesus, but it is not about Jesus himself. It is very much about the lives of the people at that time. The people who followed any random doomsayer claiming he's the Messiah and then promptly leaving him to follow another different Messiah.
I'm not the Messiah! I say you are, Lord, and I should know I followed a few!
The troupe openly mocked everyone involved in the situation. The Romans, the people around them, and even the lepers. Brian, played by Graham Chapman, is just hilarious. Always enters into situations that he isn't capable of handling, whether it's getting caught, defacing the royal palace, sneaking into the royal palace, or generally being on the run from the Romans. He desperately wants to join the underground for a girl, but the underground clearly doesn't give a rat's bottom about him, but yet he persists.
There is not one of us here who would not gladly suffer death to rid this country of the Romans once and for all. Well, one? Oh, yeah.
The rest of the cast, as per usual, plays a variety of characters in the story of Brian. My personal favorite is actually John Cleese, who initially wanted to play the main role of Brian. His reasoning was that he wanted to stay within just one character all throughout the film, something he has never done with the group. However, I think he was great in all the secondary roles he'd done, and looking back at it, so did he. The Centurion, Reg the Revolutionary, and the Master of Ceremony at the Stonings all had great parts and very memorable ones at that.
Now look, no one is to stone anyone until I blow this whistle. Do you understand?
Speaking of revolutionaries, despite the fact that this movie was shot in 1978 and hit the screens in 1979, the entire bit of introducing the People's Front of Judea is the most current-day scene you'll ever see. The argument about the right of stand becoming a woman was so absurd back then, it is still argued today on Twitter or on X. Or as one comedian friend of theirs put it, that scene should have dismantled communism right there and then.
It is symbolic of our struggle against oppression.
Symbolic of his struggle against reality.
To be absolutely fair, the scenes I laughed the most were involving the People's Front. Whether it was the endless meetings trying to finally come up with a plan to stick it to the Romans, or the apparent rescue attempt from the crucifixion that turned out to be just a salute to a martyr. The critique about these groups that are always talking and not doing anything was just as hilarious in the movie as a parody as it is annoying and ridiculous in real life.
It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them.
But you can't have babies.
Don't you oppress me.
I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb.
The Pythons left no stone unturned. They made fun of everybody. That's why comedy films, especially parody films, exist. Mel Brooks came close when it comes to biblical parody, but it was just a segment within the big picture. The Pythons went all out, and since then, no one came close to this kind of film and this kind of time period. Well, maybe just the one film, a movie that most people haven't seen before. It is called This Is Sodom, an Israeli film that I've reviewed in the past. Links, of course, are in the description down below.
Crucifixion lasts hours. It's a slow, horrible death.
Well, at least it gets you out in the open air.
As for my recommendation, I love Monty Python's work. Whether it's on film, television, or on stage. I think Life of Brian is the best movie of the trio made by the troupe. I think it has the most cohesive storyline, despite the fact that it is still wacky, and has just that one bit that goes completely off the rails. And out of all the productions that the Python had through the years, this was the most relaxed and effortless that they ever had. Life of Brian is a great entry point for anyone who has never seen or heard about Monty Python, and I would gladly show it to anyone seeking for a good comedy flick.
You been rescued then, are you?
It's a bit late for that now, isn't it?
Oh, now, we've got a couple of days up here. Plenty of time. Lots of people get rescued.
I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review, smash that like button to help me out and beat that algorithm. Check out other reviews that I've done in the past, or check out our live Saturday show where we cover all sorts of amazing films, including this one. And remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I'll see you on the next video.